Hello and welcome back. Today, in 1958, we lost someone who was not only our great nationalist leader, but also a great scholar, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. We do not have many people of that stature who were not only a remarkable leader of men, but also great scholars, great philosophers and thinkers who who actually began as a scholar of Islam because he was born in a family which was a Puritan family, which believed in a certain version of Islam, with which Maulana tend to disagree right from his early days. Over the years, he developed his own scholarship, his own understanding of Islam, and devised a new version, a new understanding, a new perspective on his faith. In the process, he lost his faith for a few days, but he got back to a new version of Islam which he has thought about, and he wrote about that particular faith in detail later on. Now, what is important today in our context is that Maulana participated in our freedom struggle first as a scholar of Islam, where when his interests were confined to communitarian interests, communitarian issues. Most of his writings from his very early age are confined to Islamic issues, and he was not writing only about Islam in India. He was writing about Islam globally, its situation, its theological developments, and all sorts of issues related to Islam. Later on, he goes beyond the communitarian concerns and decides to plunge into a more integrative politics of the country, because he knew that a freedom struggle, a battle against the British, cannot be fought merely on communitarian concerns. We need to understand the whole idea of struggle against the British, against colonialism, only as a joint struggle of all Indians, irrespective of religion. In this concern, he had to confront a challenge which came from the Muslim League, which was a party of Muslims, so called. That's how it claimed. And Maulana thus had to fight a battle on two fronts. First, a fight against the British, which was a fight which most of the nationalist leaders across religions were concerned with. And second was Maulana's fight against the Muslim League to inform the Muslim community that Muslim League is not going to serve their purpose, their interest. You have to fight against the British along with other communities. Your nationalism cannot be defined only on the basis of religion. On this issue, he was actually contesting a large number of Hindu communalist groups as well, who were trying to do exactly the same as the Muslim League was doing. They were defining nationalism or the idea of a nation in terms of communities. So he questioned Hindu Mahasabha, he questioned Muslim League, and he questioned the British imperialism. So Maulana was one of those very unusual fighters for our freedom, who had to struggle, who had to battle against three challenges. So on this count, Maulana is very unusual, a very different person. One has to also see that his concern with the unity of India, with the united India, his understanding of a united India was based on the concept of united India. He could define, he could challenge why Muslim League is wrong, why a nation cannot be formed on the basis of religion. And then he's using his Islam while he is defining it. He goes back to the early days of Islam and writes several times in many of his writings that the Prophet Muhammad himself formed the first Islamic nation in Medina as a collaborative project between the Jews and the Muslims. So that composite idea of a nation which the Prophet devised while he was forming the first Islamic nation, if he could do that, then why can't the community do it here in India if you have to fight a common enemy? So, a composite nationalism, a united India, a concept of united India is absolutely possible even in the context of the history of Islam. So this is what he was trying to convince the Muslims about, because he had to take this battle right into the camp of the Muslim League, because he had to tell the believers that you don't have to really believe what the Muslim League is saying or what the Muslim League is trying to propagate, because the Prophet himself formed a nation on the basis of collaborative understanding of nationhood. So this was a challenge which Maulana fought all his life. Even after the division of India, he was actually the only man, last man, who kept standing. Most of the people, most of the political leaders of ours, right from Sardar Patel to Nehru to Gandhi, all of them got convinced in the end, though not very happily, that we have to divide the nation. But Maulana was the only one who remained committed to the idea of united India. Second, another important thing about Maulana is that he was a man who was not merely a nationalist leader. He wrote several things. He had an understanding, like even after partition, even after independence, the sort of India he tried to build as a Minister of Education, Science and Culture. He could see that we have to carry forward the values of our freedom struggle, the values we have cherished during freedom struggle, the values of compositeness, the values of pluralism. So the education which we have to give, or we have to devise an educational program, the new education policy after independence, had to see that we all build this nation together and go away from the divisive politics of the communalist, both Hindu as well as Muslim. So if we see the first decade of the 1950s, in which Maulana tried to build this new education policy, this sentiment, the pluralism, the policies which are not divisive, the policies which talk about togetherness, education which gives the idea of togetherness and of living happily together. That is something which we need to be given to all Hindus as well as Muslims, because it was an India which had just suffered the pain of partition, the division of the country in the name of religion. So there was bitterness. There were people who had come across from the border, from the so-called parts of Pakistan, and they needed to be given or applied some balm. They needed support, they needed help. So this was a challenge which Maulana had to confront. And if we see that particular period, now today we can form all sorts of opinions, but you go back and read that particular phase of our early history, we find that it was a great challenge which Maulana had to face. And I'm really amazed how this man faced this challenge. When he died on 22nd February 1958, lots of his admirers and friends were planning a commemorative volume, a volume to celebrate his life, celebrate his contributions, which Humayun Kabir was supposed to edit. And the large number of people, not only from India but even from outside India, agreed to contribute their views about Maulana Azad. Unfortunately, before that volume could come out, Maulana passed away, and that volume, instead of a commemorative volume, it became a memorial volume. And if we read that volume today, we get the idea of Maulana Azad's life, what exactly he stood for, what were his ideals, and a large number of scholars have contributed, uh, touching upon most aspects of his life. So we need to remember Maulana Azad much more today, because we need to instill, we need to get back those values which unfortunately we almost we have almost forgotten, and we have gone far away from those concerns. We need to go back to the values which Maulana Azad cherished all his life, to bring together Indians, to bring together uh, communities across religions, across communities. Thank you.